Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our episode this week on child sexual abuse. And you are with me, as usual, Pastor Maggie Alinani. And in today's episode, we get to learn firsthand from someone that got abused at the age of 7. So, we'll be right back. Let's be together as we learn and hear her story. And after hearing her story, we'll be back to draw lessons from whatever happened, from whatever transpired out of the incidents. Thank you.
I clearly remember it was about 11 years ago. 11 years ago, I was going somewhere I was going somewhere to pray with my friends. So I went there to pray with my friends. As we were praying, a certain man came. And that certain man, as you know, a young kid can be naive and can't know anything yet. So I went there to pray. It was just a little young girl. But then the man brought some coin. It was money. He brought money. So you know how a kid can be. I was scoped. I was attracted to the money. So I followed I followed the man. We went to a certain river. Still remember the river in the spot you did. We went to the river where he did the act. He did the actual defilement. And from there, from the river, it didn't even end there. He even went to a certain house. It is one sad afternoon that I always remember in my life. Because after then, from the river, he even took me to an unfinished house where he did the act for the second time. And from there, he took me and left me where he took me at first. By that time, my parents were looking for me because they searched from all my friends that I were praying with, and they had no idea where I was. So he left me there, and I went back home. As a kid, I didn't know anything. So going back home, I told my parents, you know how a child can be. I told my parents everything that had happened, and my mother was like, she started even crying. And then my father with my mother went where I taught them what incident yachitikira pakuti. From there they asked around if they had seen the man with such description, and they took me because they wanted to know if I see the man, I should show them the man, if the proper action should be what should be taken. We searched around and nothing happened. We didn't find the man. See, so that was the very first incident. It was such a painful incident for me as I was growing up, because I realized what happened was very bad and intense, because at that time I was just a little kid. So imagining all the memories, everything that he did, it has always been a sad part of my life. And it didn't just end there. It happened for the second time again, that the house that we were living, the neighbor close to our house had a certain boy. They were keeping a certain boy who was learning at a certain secondary school. So each time he had knocked off from school, he would call me into his house. It didn't even take much time from the first defilement to the other defilement. But then in the second case, he used to invite me over his house because he knew that my parents were at work, my family was at work, and his family was also at work. So he'd call me, and he did it for almost 3 incidents. But that I didn't tell my parents. As a kid, I said I was naive and afraid. I was scared of the results that will come out of the whole incident, because I knew from the reaction of the first incident that if they came to know this, they would be angry with me, because they were afraid of the first incident. It was as if the whole blame was on me because I received the money. So it was like a tit for that game with the man. So my parents, I know they had love they have love for me. They had love for me then in them, but then with what had happened, they were like blaming me for the situation because I received something. If I had denied, maybe something of that sort wouldn't have happened. Since I was afraid, if I am to tell them again, they will bring the whole blame to me again. So that's how it happened. At first, from the very first years, it didn't have much impact back then, 11 years ago. But you know, as growing up, it has always been a sad. I don't know how to explain this, but it has always been a sad and a bad time for me, because I was fearing to open up even to my mother to tell her about the occurrences that had happened in my life. Of course, she knew about the first one, but the second one, she didn't even have a view of how everything happened till date. So it was always been hard managing the whole things by myself. And then I remember knowing it from somewhere and hearing it from people, whenever a girl or a young child has been defiled or left, it is as if the reproductive system of that particular young child has been activated at the time she has been defiled. Because the way God made our reproductive systems is that when we reach puberty, when we reach maturity, that's when they are activated. But then the moment a young girl undergoes through that, that's what happens. So growing up, I started experiencing such kind of things. The way the reproductive system the reproductive system is activated, the kind of things that are supposed to be felt by someone who is mature enough or felt by a young girl who was undergone through such an incident. So to me, it was a very hard time because I didn't even know God. I had no one to talk to, even though I had people around me, but I didn't feel it safe to tell it to someone. I had fear, and that fear is still in me. That fear, I know I've been trying to deal with it over the years, but then that fear can still be in me. Because from the experiences that I had, I've always been afraid to be around men. Even growing up, I would be dreaming of even bad things. I would be dreaming of such occurrences happening over and over again. And I couldn't tell anyone else why, because I felt there was no need to open up for someone. Everyone else would be blaming me. And then I didn't even know God. I even used to blame God. But why would He allow such a thing to happen to me? It has always been a sad instance. But then, thanks be to God, as I was growing up, I had much trouble going into the other classes in primary school, like Zone 8. That's when I started experiencing all those things, all the effects. I started experiencing them then. I've, I even when I went to secondary school, I was always afraid. And then hearing it from my friends, from their experiences, kuti akamva zoti nzawo kwanchitikira zakuti the same coincidence kuti wapezeka zoti wagwiririra wapanga chani, how they react in their community, like kuti ichi chose pamoyo wawo chimakhala chasokonekera, like it's as if they're exposed to sexual activity. So I was always afraid, what if I end up like them, even though I'm going to school, even though I'm doing this, what if I end up like them? But I thank God for being in my life, because even from the very little faith that I had then, even from the faith that I had for God that time, I think it was what has helped me a lot in life. Because throughout the whole situation, I had no one, as I said, I had no one to talk to. I was even afraid to go healthy center to check how my status is, because from two experiences, I didn't even know how my body is. And then growing up more and more, reaching secondary school, there always side effect. Like there were instances there where I would have blisters in my private area. I have things that will make me worry. What if this is an STI? What if this? What if this? What is this? What if this? But then, even though I had those effects, the fear, the blisters, the rumors, the hallucinations, the dreams, I made it through. I decided that even though that happened, that doesn't mean the end of the world, because God has always made big plans for us. He has big plans for us, for He knew us and ordained us even before we were even born, for He knows the plans that He has for us. So for everything that has happened in my life, I shouldn't just let go of a promised future that is there before me. So I decided that, be it what, I should just focus on the dreams that I had at that time. That from there, even though I was going through the trauma process, but then I managed to get through secondary school, up to the point that I put up until I went to I'm in university now. So really, I want to thank God for coming into my life, because it is through the grace of the Lord that I'm here. Because there were times that I even thought of committing suicide. I didn't even tell anyone, but there were times that I thought I should commit suicide, because I saw good. I had no purpose in life. Why would I live even though such a thing happened to me? So I really thank God for having Him into my life. Because for everything that I do now, I trust Him a lot. And then meeting with Pastor Maggie also has been a very big blessing, a very big blessing upon my life, because she enlightened me. I clearly remember how I got the news from one of the groups. She was like, anyone who went through this, and absent fathers should consult me. What should share experience? I took it in my heart and told her everything, because I felt like, I shouldn't just bury it into my heart, because I know the pain that is hidden in someone's heart, it's much greater even when we keep it into our hearts than to share it with someone. We never know what what that pain that we've shared, it's as if a burden has been detached from our shoulders. So talking to Pastor Maggie made me feel much better, because after I told her everything, I had that expectation. I had that expectation. Maybe she would judge me or what. But she was like, you shouldn't worry. It wasn't your fault. Everything that happened wasn't your fault. And she has been trying to help me. She has been helping me ever since then. She has been checking on me ever since then. So talking to someone who is there to listen to you and to help you with ideas on how to move on when something like this happened into your life is such a very big blessing. Thank you.
Hearing from her story, we can see some lessons from there. The first lesson that I'm seeing is that after the first abuse, because maybe the parents did not understand the child was afraid to disclose the second abuse, which, if you can see, it did more harm to the child and not to the parents. So, you as a parent, you as a guardian, there is a way on how you are supposed to treat a child when they disclose an abuse. Because if at first they encouraged her and they understood her, they stood with her emotionally, the second time would not have been hard for her to approach the parents about the abuse. So if you are there and someone has ever disclosed the abuse to you, and maybe instead of you uplifting them, maybe you even affected them the more, then I'm here to tell you that it is important that you reach out to professionals, you reach out to people like us who can help you on how best we can handle the abused, because the way you handle them after the abuse determines whether they will be healed or not. The second thing that we are learning from this story is that you, as a parent, may also train your children in the homes on how they can actually open up to people that are strangers or not. So, if you can hear the story, this person was a stranger, and the child, because they are not mature enough to make decisions on their own, he was attracted to the money that the person said he was gonna give her. So in a certain episode, I once talked about the grooming that happens. So for this guy, you can see that he groomed the child by enticing her with the money. So as we bring up these children in the homes, as we bring them up, whether in a school environment or in a home, we can also train them on how best they need to react when a stranger tries to entice them with something. So this may also help. So these are the two lessons that we are learning from this story today. Be able to encourage and support your children when they disclose. The second, let's prepare them in advance whenever a stranger tries to entice them with something. Let's help the children on how best they can respond to that. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.